In a powerful show of support for nature, nearly every government in the world united behind the CBD's sweeping biodiversity plan for life on Earth. They committed to halting the extinction of threatened animal, plant, and fungi species. And in an historic first, they also committed to helping those species recover, so that the life we share our planet with can not only survive, but thrive. Making these goals a reality will take all of us working together. Reverse the Red is supporting governments, conservation experts, and communities around the world as they join forces to activate tried and tested tools and tie global efforts to local expertise. All in a coordinated effort to assess, plan, and act for wildlife. Together, we can save species from extinction. Together, we can secure our planet's future. Together, we can reverse the red.
Hey, good morning all, and or good day, depending where in the world you are. And welcome to this IUCN Reverse the Red celebration of Pacific Islands conservation. I'm really pleased that you can all join us today. We've got some incredible speakers, and we'll be talking about some of the conservation success stories and projects that are currently underway here in the Pacific. So we're really excited to share some of the things in this beautiful part of the world, an incredible place for people and conservation, but really needs a lot more work and dedication and focus. But I'm sure with the people who are speaking today and some of the other people in the room, that it's going to be a really active place for conservation across the years now. So a couple of housekeeping things. If you would like to post some questions, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom. Put your questions in there. And we have some time to answer questions at the end, but if it's a quick answer, then potentially we can make some time for that during the talks. And also we have the show captions tab as well, which can do live captions or translations. Though, as it's AI generated, there's no guarantee about that it'll say what it's supposed to do. And this meeting is recorded, so it will be available later as well. And thank you all for joining us this morning. It looks like a great turnout for this chat. Yeah, we really wanted to do something for the Pacific for this Reverse the Red Day week. So the Reverse the Red Day later this week. It's become a whole week of celebrations now, which is amazing. And we've been joined by Megan Joyce from the IUCN Reverse the Red team. We're really lucky to have her here today. Thank you for playing the incredible video to introduce Reverse the Red. So, yeah, we have a lot of speakers here today. I'll be facilitating the speakers. My name is John Paul Houston. I'm the CEO of the Port Moresby Nature Park, based in Port Moresby, the capital city of Papua New Guinea, and also the host for the IUCN Center for Species Survival for Papua New Guinea species. And I'll introduce the speakers as they come on today. From around Papua New Guinea and the wider Pacific. So first up, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Modi Pontio, from the Tree Kangaroo Conservation Project up in Lae, in Papua New Guinea to talk about the tree kangaroos. It's a really special year for Modi and the team, and congratulations. This year will be your 30th anniversary. So over to you, Modi. I think your microphone's still on mute, Modi.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Says you
Hey,
started
John Paul,
sharing.
can you see my screen?
It's not loaded yet, but I think it's on its way. It says you've started to screen share.
Okay. Hello? Hello?
I don't see it yet, Modi. Maybe stop the screen share and start it again. Oh, no, it's come on now. Let's give Modi 1 minute, and then if there's some web issues, maybe we'll move on to the. Okay, so all of you working in the Pacific probably know that this happens from time to time. So unfortunately, there's some issues with connectivity. It's one of the challenges of working here, but we'll move on to our second speaker, and hopefully Modi can restart and get access to some data again. So our second speaker is somebody I work with on a day-to-day basis, Miss Valerie Mark, who's one of our species survival officers at the IUCN Center for Species Survival for Papua New Guinea.
Hey, hi again, everyone, and good morning from Papua New Guinea. Once again, my name is Valerie Mack, and I'm one of the species survival officers here at the Port Moresby Nature Park. My focus of today's event, today's forum, my presentation topic would be on our the highlights of our 2025 species gap analysis highlights. Next slide, please. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what CSS is or what Port Moresby Nature Park does, this is just a short introduction for you guys. So Centers for Species Survival, or CSS, global partnerships between the IUCN Species Survival Commission and leading organizations such as zoos, aquariums, and botanical gardens all around the world. And the IUCN CSS PNG was one of the many centers for species survival that sponsors. As you can see on my screen there's a lot of wonderful sponsors was able to fund and hire new staff and provide an an awesome office space for us, and also provide support for the targets that we have planned for some of the targets that the center has been working on for the last please. Next slide. Okay, sorry. So as we all know, Papua New Guinea has one of the richest highest biodiversity, the richest from our alpine tree kangaroos. However, for many of these species, we still do not know how they're doing in terms of their resilience in the face of human impacts. Therefore, for the past Center for Species Survival to identify the major gaps of taxa, and we prioritized areas for targeted research and assessment, mostly on 5 main taxa, which we will later find out what these are later in my presentation. And these are the 5 main objectives that we aim to achieve at the end of our gap analysis. Just to note, the gap analysis is a very progressive process, all dependent on the information that's available. Next slide, please. Okay, so on your screen, you will see 7 steps that were outlined from in a chronological order. However, when the other species survival and I were doing the gap analysis process, we didn't follow this process in a chronological order, just because we were new to the center's work. So we started the process probably somewhere in the middle with step number 4 and 5. And from there, we came up with the 7 different steps to complete our gap analysis process. However, it wasn't a set process that we followed. That was one of the challenges we faced in the beginning. Another challenge was the availability of data or up-to-date data for us to use in our gap analysis process as well. However, in the end, despite those challenges, we were able to combine a list of endemic and native species of birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and freshwater fish. Next slide, please. So in the next 2 slides, you're going to see just a few sources that we used. I will not really dwell on this, just for you guys to see the sources that we used in our gap analysis process. Numbers that we came up with from our gap analysis. Next slide. Okay. So this slide here shows the most approximate biodiversity count in Papua New Guinea. From all those sources you saw in the last 2 slides, we put together a number of species under each of these major taxa. So the 2 species survival officers, we concentrated on the first 5 major taxa, the terrestrial and semi-marine taxa. The small mammals added at the end the data was given to us by the small mammal specialist group. So we just added that in there because we will also be working with them reassess the species. However, the first 5 here, these are the numbers that we got out from our gap analysis, doing research or gathering data from all the available data that we found from all the sources you saw earlier on. Again, just to take note, these numbers are progressive. When we find new research, they will either increase or decrease in value. Next slide, please. So just for presentation, this here shows how we broke down the data in our data collection. We had our 5 main taxa, then we divided the group up into 3. Then we divided the data up into 3 different groups, which are native, endemic, and species that were not assessed or not on the IUCN red list. Again, so all these numbers, they still needed to be reduced, meaning there was a criteria that we had to follow to come up with a priority list for reassessment, because the main goal of the center is to reassess species or assess new species to put on the IUCN red list. So we still need to break these numbers down. So we had to come up with a criteria to further break these numbers down. Next slide, please. So the criteria we used was all based on IUCN guidelines. There are a lot of criteria that we used. However, these are the 4 main criteria that we use to further break down those numbers to a high priority list for reassessment. For the threat levels, we used the classification of threats document that was created by IUCN and NatureServe, and also the threats that were found in the IUCN red list. When you do a search, at the bottom there's a threat category for each species that they face in their habitats. So we use that to give a score out of 5. The next one would be species not assessed from 2017 and back. This is because on the IUCN red list, all species need to be assessed every 10 years. After that, if it goes more than that, obviously it's of high priority to be reassessed. The third criteria would be species endemic to Papua New Guinea. We're given a high score for these in terms of priority because data to be used for assessment can be easily accessed, as opposed to native species where data collection can be tedious and may take a long time because the species can be found in other countries. The studies are also done in other countries, and data is also in other countries. So collecting and receiving the data can be tedious and may take a long time, which we're already facing right now with some memos that are also shared with neighboring countries. And of course, the last one, whatever species we found on the IUCN red list, we also cross-check that list with other sources like AmphibiaWeb, Avibase, just a few examples. And on those websites, whatever species that were not on the IUCN red list, they were given a high priority score as well and made it onto the high priority list. Next slide, please. So after we use the 4 main criteria plus others to break down the very big number you saw in the beginning, this on your screen is what you see, the high priority list that need to be reassessed. These numbers include species that are either listed as data deficient on IUCN, they are either in the threat category or endemic to Papua New Guinea, have not been assessed in the last 10 years, or not found on the IUCN red list. These species here are made up of both endemic and native species. And the endemic species from this list here will also assist the center to create a national red list project. which is already underway. We also are collecting point data or distribution data from GBIF, and we will create a distribution map. And hopefully this will give an insight to where these species are, and also create opportunities for focused conservation efforts for the species around Papua New Guinea. This is because when you go on IUCN Red List and look at some of the distribution maps for some of the species, there is only one point data information for a very general area of where the species is located. So we are hoping that the data we get from GBIF, from observations around the country, will be able to give us a more where species hotspots are, so that more concentrated conservation efforts can be given to these species. Next slide, please. To close the gaps that we have identified, these are some of the few actions that the center is planning to work on and is already working on. The two that we are currently working on would be, we are already beginning the first stages of integrating tech into our research, or talking to communities to integrate tech into our assessments for the species that are on the priority list. And we are also already in discussions with local organizations, NGOs, and partner organizations to share information and collect information for reassessments. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the whole purpose of this gap analysis? Why do we need this data? The IUCN Center for Species Survival will use this data to collaborate with the IUCN Red List unit to update national assessments. We will also work with partner organizations to share data, collect data, and store data in an ethical way, of course. And thirdly, we are working on establishing a national red list project that is open and accessible for everyone in the country, because currently we do not have one available. That's one of the main gaps in data that we identify. We are planning to create specialist groups for Papua New Guinea endemic taxa. Next slide, please. So in closing, this work reminds us that our greatest challenge isn't just about losing species due to threats or climate change, but it's also losing knowledge about them because of limited research or data available, or the knowledge that traditional ecological knowledge, I might say. So by filling these gaps, we give ourselves the power to act, to protect, and to plan better as partners in conservation. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks so much, Valerie. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to see firsthand the work of your team. And I can say that, you know, in Papua New Guinea at least, and probably across the Pacific, we're dealing with really a lack of data. And that's been the issue. So this process of prioritization has been great. We've kind of been lucky enough to work with the Revesta Red team as well in the target for prioritization, as well as this gap analysis, which has been a really good process. So we're starting off right at the very beginning with the prioritization process, but I know that the Center for Species Survival, it's really shown itself to be super important for the country. So thank you. I know we have one question, which we'll take at the end from John Lamar's. And so our next speaker is John Bender from the Pacific Bird Conservation Organization. And so yeah, we're really pleased to showcase not just work from Papua New Guinea here, and we'd love to hear from John about the work that's been done there. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everyone. Let me share my screen. Does everything look okay? Hafaday and Tiro, good morning, everyone. My name's John Bender. I work primarily in Guahan in the Mariana Islands, and I'm going to be talking to you today about a project that we're doing with the No Saluda, the Rota Waitai, and co-producing a conservation action plan with various stakeholders throughout the islands. So just really quickly showing a map of where we are in the Western Pacific. A lot of the work we do happens on the southern islands in the Marianas, Saipan, Tinian, Luta, and Guahan, but we also do translocation projects from the southern islands to some of the northern, currently uninhabited islands, Anatahan, Guguan, and Alamagan. The human populations for the southern islands are on the left here, ranging from 170,000 on Guahan with 3 active military bases to smaller populated islands like Luda and Tinian, and then the 11 uninhabited islands in the north. So the species I'm going to be talking about today is No Saluda, or the Rota Waitai. It's an endemic passerine to Luda. It's an active social flocking species. It's part of the Zosterops waitai group. They're kind of bounce around all over the Pacific. This species is endemic to Luda. The Marianas has another Zosterops species, the bridled waitai, or Nosa, that's found kind of on Tinian and Saipan and some of the other islands. The No Saluda is currently listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. It's U.S. Fish and Wildlife species listed as an ESA species, so it's protected as endangered. And we've seen that their main habitat on Luda is kind of these secondary, pretty dense rainforest. So we have Fanioc, Nunu, or the ficus, a lot of these bamboo and avocado groves, but they're really hanging out heavily in these really high canopy Nunu Fanioc trees, kind of moving through the canopy together, gleaning insects off of the branches. They're also picking up flowers and fruits. We're doing a lot of studies about what they're eating and what their species interactions are, but this is kind of a snapshot of where they hang out most of the day. And the main reason we're concentrating on them heavily is that this species saw a very dramatic population decline in the late 90s. So in 1982, they thought the population was around 10,000 to 14,000. And in the late 90s, the population went under 1,000 individuals very quickly within about a 5-year span. That raised a lot of red flags, and we kind of started having these alarm bells going off. We couldn't figure out what was causing the decline. And then they were listed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in 2004. And since then, their population has started to see some reprieve from whatever caused that threat. So we're seeing a population right now that's ranging from 4,000 individuals to 14,000 individuals. We think that's a little on the high end, but the population is steadily increasing. There is a lot of hypotheses for why that population crashed so drastically. There's native and invasive predators that the species deals with. There's habitat loss and degradation happening on Luda. There were 2 Category 5 typhoon events that hit Luda in 1998 and I think 1996. So we don't know if a lot of these possible causes of decline were kind of slowly simmering the species, and then these big typhoon events kind of led to that catastrophic decline. People are looking at avian disease, but the current consensus is that there's kind of just all of these threats working in tandem against the species. And something else that we really worry about on Guahan and the Marianas is the brown tree snake. So the brown tree snake is currently not on Luda, but it was accidentally transported to Guahan from Papua New Guinea in 1945, 1952, around there, caused the extirpation of most of the vertebrate species on the island, and we've had BTS found in traps on Saipan, Tinian, and Luda. So this is not a current threat, but it's a threat that we're always thinking about and planning for. So after the population crash of the wide-eye, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, one of their recovery objectives was to reduce the decline of suitable habitat. So they set aside protected areas for the Nosaluda and for the Aga, which is the Mariana crow. So on this map, you can see the map of Luda. There's a main core area right here in the middle that you can see there's overlap of Aga and Nosaluda territories touching each other. This is a high elevation point on the island, and we have found that the core population of Nosaluda is spending their time above 180 meters in elevation. And that's another situation we're dealing with. So we're dealing with a population that has seen a great reduction, but we're also seeing range restriction at the same time. And in this area, we find patches of forest that seem to not change ecologically with the tree species that are there, but we do see that the wide-eyes are not inhabiting the entire territory. They're kind of Swiss cheese throughout this like really nice habitat. So lots of what ifs and what's going on. And because of that, we're doing a lot of different projects. So we're doing on the left, the upper left here, we're doing a diet metabarcoding project. So we're collecting fecal samples of a lot of the avian species throughout the island chain to figure out, using DNA metabarcoding, how they interact with the different fruit species or insect species. So this slide quickly just shows 3 avian species in the Marianas and the different insect orders that we found in their feces after collecting it and doing some lab work on it at Virginia Tech. We're doing that with the wide-eye. We're doing a lot of mist netting to see if they could handle short-term husbandry periods in case we wanted to do a translocation with them. We're doing a population analysis with the T-MAPS group. They come to the island and they do a lot of mist netting in the regions to try to see what the population of the Nosaluda is. DFW, it's the Division of Fish and Wildlife in the CNMI, is also leading up a lot of nest searching and tree species studies in the core habitat and the edge habitat of the Nosaluda. And we're also doing rat density evaluations in the core and edge habitat with these rat chew cards, camera traps, and we're hoping to add ARUs to that as well. But the biggest thing we're doing is this Nosaluda conservation planning workshop. So what we did is we identified a group of stakeholders and community members and leaders. So we invited the Rhoda Mayor's office, the senators in the CNMI, the military, seafarers, biologists, teachers. We tried to get a really diverse group of stakeholders together, and we had a 3-day workshop in August of 2025 to talk about and think about how to make a conservation plan for the Nosaluda as a diverse group for the first time instead of kind of a conservation group just leading the way. So the aim of the workshop was to develop a shared vision for the future of the species, to create a clear understanding of what we thought the threats and uncertainties were that we were facing, and to trust in the process and each other. It's kind of a vulnerable thing to do when you're talking about threats to the island or threats to the species. So we developed a working vision right now that just says by 2050, Nosaluda is thriving in the wild, exemplifying community-led conservation success and serving as a source of local pride. So this is something that took a lot of time to develop. A group of 40 people working on a vision that's a paragraph long. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but it was a little bit of a struggle, but we got through it, and we got through something that I think is very important. And we also made a provisional timeline of the island. So we went back in time and we tried to talk to Manamco or elders on the island at the different stages of colonization that happened with humans throughout the time periods and the different invasive species that came through. So you can see here the different human colonization events in the middle, and then the different invasive species colonization events are these black kind of silhouettes that are hard to see, but you see chicken and pigs come in and rats, and then you see deer come in kind of in the German and Japanese administration area. A invasive drongo species shows up in the 60s. But we kind of did that to try to figure out what was going on with our population and our bird. And we also overlaid human populations and typhoon events at the same time. I know we're running out of time, so I just want to say that we listed a bunch of factors also that we thought were important. So past, present, and future threats that we were worried about. And the way that we did this was we had everyone vote. They got to vote for 3 to 5 different threats that they thought were the most important to the island and the species. So it was a group effort, and then we ranked them, and that was how we were going to choose what we should base our conservation action plan on and what our desired product should be at the end. We have brown tree snake obviously being very high, rats and deer causing disturbances to the ecosystem, extreme weather events. The Marianas has been seeing a lot of heavy typhoon events lately. So that was kind of something important that we did. Our next workshop is going to be in May of 2026. We're doing a lot of planning with a PVA component to it, but this is kind of just a look at what the days typically look like for us. And yeah, I'm out of time, so I just want to say thank you to everyone. Here's the acknowledgements. Thanks to Reverse the Red for having me, and it's great to meet everyone. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, John. Some amazing work out there, and it's nice to be able to showcase in this. We tried to be representative of the Pacific, but most of the speakers who put their hand up were from PNG, so it's great to have a perspective that's elsewhere in the Pacific. So thank you so much, an incredible work. I would just say people posting questions in the chat, please could you post them in the Q&A? It's just to the left of the main chat, because we have some time at the end where we'll field questions from everybody. Thank you, Dr. Lisa, for putting the question into the Q&A. If you did ask the question already, I'd really appreciate if you could put it into the Q&A so that they're all together and we can make sure that we represent that during the Q&A session. Okay. Thank you, John. Yeah, okay. I already introduced Modi earlier, but yeah, amazing to see Miss Modi here. She's the director from the Tree Kangaroo Conservation Project based in Leh. And in their 30th anniversary year, we're really happy that Miss Modi could speak here. So over to you, Modi, if your connection's good now.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay. Let me see. Slideshow. Oh, okay. Share.
That's it.
Now?
Modi. Yeah, all good if you wanted to
Okay,
start.
good. Yes, I'll start. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Modi.
I apologize. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So, oh, I'll put on my video first. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'll go straight into our presentation. So, what I'll be talking about is the youth conservation area and the tree kangaroos work in the conservation area. Let me, oh, how do I do this? Okay. The picture you see in there is what is the common site in the youth conservation area and where the tree tree kangaroos live. So I'll talk a little bit about some facts of, with regard to our work in the youth conservation area, our program, and how we contribute to species recovery, and then how we want to sustain that work into the future. All right, so some facts about the youth conservation area and the tree kangaroo conservation program. The conservation area sits at the border of two provinces. You can see that in the map, it's to the north of Papua New Guinea, between Morobe and Medan provinces. It's most of it is in the Medan province, in the Morobe province. Across the landscape, there's about 50 villages with, a little bit more than 15,000 people within that area. This is a Reach to Reef project, so there is a terrestrial area and there is a marine area. In total, it's 162,000 hectares. The conservation area is gazetted under the Conservation Areas Act of 1978. It was done in 2009 as the first conservation area in Papua New Guinea. And this is important to note because under this arrangement, the land still belongs to the people. It's the management of the land that is entrusted to the government. So we have a committee that manages the conservation area. I wanted to make that emphasis because we get a lot of mistakes, people thinking that TKCP or the Tree Kangaroo Conservation Program is managing that conservation area. No, we are a part of the committee that manages the conservation area, but that committee is made up of people in the government, including SIPA, the district administration, and the provincial government. And in Papua New Guinea, we all know this is very important, the land ownership issue. So what the landowners then agreed to a set of bylaws. So they agreed to laws with some guidance from the government and from TKCP to have the bylaws gazetted. So the management of that conservation area is guided by those bylaws. This project was started as a the conservation area started as a project by the Woodland Park Zoo. In the process of their research in the area, they recognized the high biodiversity and the cultural values of the area, and that's how it got recognized as the key biodiversity area. So that map you see, the green colored area, that's a key biodiversity area that's designated by our government. And youth conservation area sits within that key biodiversity area. So this year, 2026 marks 30 years of conservation work in the conservation area. Number one, our programs. We organize ourselves in strategies. So our first program looks at how we govern the conservation area, how we work with the Conservation Area Management Committee to manage the conservation area. Strategy 2 looks at our research and monitoring. So this is a very big part of our work. I'm not going to go into talking about the research work that we do, the details of that, someone else, maybe Dr. Lisa would have to talk about that. But in here, I wanted to say that we do have research focused on the tree kangaroos. And this is helping us to understand their home range and the way of life within the field. But in the process of our monitoring, we have some 30 animals monitored by our rangers. So on a monthly basis, our monitors go out with an app that they use, we call SMART, and do monitoring of the conservation areas. The conservation area also, serves as space for other scientists to do work. So while our program focuses on the tree kangaroo research, it's also open for other researchers to come and do research on many other animals that are found there. And I should, also mention here that a lot of them are endemic to that particular area. Strategy 3 is helping us how we share our lessons with other people. We see ourselves as a learning landscape. This is a project that is creating lessons that we would like to share with other parts of, across Papua New Guinea and outside of Papua New Guinea also. And that has been our mission also in sharing that lesson. We now have an opportunity to expand that work out into the wider Huen Peninsula, bringing those lessons that we've made in use outside of that landscape. Strategy 4 helps us to, the strategy allows us to value the support that we get from communities and how we can support them also to ensure that they are, their well-being is taken care of. And the communities are the ones that are going to help carry that program forward. And we recognize that. So we spend a lot of effort and resources in working with our communities. And then strategy 5 is about how we can sustain the organization to continue to do this work. Okay, so species recovery. In 2023, our staff came across this wild tree kangaroo when they were returning from a monitoring program. It was sitting in a tree 2 meters above ground level. It didn't run away in fear and sat there for some 20 minutes while our staff observed and took pictures. This is an unusual behavior for a tree kangaroo, as normally they are known as very elusive and would run away at the presence of any human being. For us, this is a sign that conservation is working. Similar stories from communities of sightings in their coffee gardens and in their villages. We are trying to grow through that by deploying camera traps in coffee gardens. So for us as a conservation organization, we think youth has obtained conservation status. We have it gazetted, it has that status already. There is a functioning governance body. I'm really proud to say that our CAMT continues to meet twice a year and discuss, hear from the communities on how we want to, and hear and plan with the communities on how we want to manage the conservation area. We have a staff of about 40. Most of them are in the field, rangers and liaison officers who help to do awareness continuously. We have an office here in Ley, and I think we're fully established. We have a really good network of supporters and volunteers. I'll show you later on some pictures of our volunteers. We've created lessons, in the process of us doing land use planning, in our smart monitoring and the camera trapping that we'd like to share. It's there for sharing. So the question now is, how do we sustain this work? The sustainability of what we've done. The long-term commitment. So one of the main issues we found out that worked really well for us is the long-term commitment. This commitment has helped to build trust and, but it requires a lot of perseverance. And I joined the organization in 2022, but Dr. Lisa has been here, from way back 1993. For a long time. Like I said earlier on, it's 30 years into 30 years this year. We're celebrating 30 years. Adaptive management approach, and we've seen this work really well in the conservation area. We have a review of the land use plan every 5 years. I didn't share the land use plan here, but I know a lot of you have seen what the land use plan looks like. We we review that every year with the communities and then make changes depending on what the information we're getting from our monitoring. There is a really high level stakeholder engagement. We emphasize a lot on community participation. All our field staff are members from the community. Within the provincial area too, we have very good working relationship with our provincial government. I think one of the important factors I would really like to mention here is the approach that we've taken. So our approach, we call it the One Health approach. We do have a One Health program, but the approach to conservation, so where we consider the animals just as important as the environment and the people that live in it. And so a big part of our work is working with the people. Like I said earlier on, we already have conservation status. This is a gazetted area. Our focus now is how do we work with people so that they continue that work into the future. So our strategy 4 is dedicated to building community capacity to sustain conservation and work towards species recovery. So in summary, like I said, we have achieved conservation by having the conservation area gazetted. We use the One Health approach. So we also, and to maintain that effort that we have put there. The picture you see in here is a picture of our volunteers. All those some are international volunteers, but there are community volunteers in there. These are people who love our program, who come out to the conservation area and do what they can to support their communities, work with communities. This is a health team. We also have volunteers in other areas. Conservation area, for it to thrive, will need good collaboration. And I think we tried our best to maintain good collaboration with all the stakeholders, including the government, at the district, the different levels of government. So it's at national level, provincial level, district, and down to the ward level. We believe that sharing our lessons will also help to maintain the work that we have started, but also expand out to other areas. So I put down our website there. Sorry, I have not been able to go in depth in our work, but you can visit our site and learn from that. I also put our director's email there, Dr. Lisa Debeck. I know I may have not represented the organization well in here, but she can talk to that as well. Thank you.
It's really amazing. Thank you so much, Modi. Yeah, it's a project that really considers everything truly collaborative. And for me, I always feel like it's the gold standard for our One Plan approach. And personally, a huge inspiration for me. So it's great to hear about it from you today. Thank you so much for that. And thank you. There's a lot of questions coming in now in the Q&A session. So yeah, we'll get to those at after everybody's finished speaking. So if the panel could stick around, would be great. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Sharani Amakpal from the Piku Conservation Project, discussing some of the work in Kikori.
Thank you, John Paul. Hi, everyone. I am Yolani. I manage a small organization called the Piku Biodiversity Network. We work over in Kikori. Megan, next slide, please. So this is where we work. The little area in the blue box. This is Papua New Guinea. So Kikori is in Papua New Guinea. We're in a province called the Gulf Province, which is orange. And the Kikori River Delta is in the little blue box. The Kikori River Delta, the area that we work, is home to but we work with 10 different tribes, and so 10 different cultures, and have the privilege of working within their knowledge system. The Piku Biodiversity Network identifies, I like to say it like that, we identify as a community-based organization because we consider ourselves an extension of the Kikori community. Also, my excuse for not seeing my face outside in the normal areas like Port Moresby, we are community-based. Most of our work is over in the Kikori. The Kikori is also part of the Kikori Delta Important Marine Mammal Area. So that's for the two Delta dolphins that are only found over in the Gulf of Papua. They're found that part of Papua New Guinea and Australia. So English, they're known as the Australian humpback and the Australian snubfin dolphin. Over in Kikori, they're both known as Pidu. So we've had them since time immemorial. The Kikori, the area that we work is also part of the Gulf of Papua Mangrove Delta Important Shark and Ray area, which is in Israel. The Kikori Delta IMA, the Important Marine Mammal Area, was designated in the year 2000, and we got the ISRA only in 2024, I think. Yes, in 2024. The ISRA was, we used about 23 species for sharks and rays, and we're looking at threatened species like, I'll talk a bit more in my other slides, threatened species like the critically endangered sawfish. We've got range-restricted species, which is common for a lot of animals on New Guinea. For us, it would be the river sharks. So there's 3 river sharks in the world. We've got 2 of them. And we've got, that area has reproductive areas for some critically endangered species like the winghead shark. More about that on Saturday, on Friday when we catch at the Palm Nature Park. So yes, this is where we work. Next slide, please. Ta-da! Some of the work that we do, a lot of the work we're known for is the work that we do with Piku. So the pig-nosed turtle, we also participate in its red list assessment, FYI. The Piku Biodiversity Network is a membership. We've got all of 6 members. 2 of our turtle members participate in the IUCN assessments for the pig-nosed turtle, the soft-shell turtle, which is vulnerable right there, and some of our other freshwater turtle species on New Guinea. We over in the Gulf work with 4 of our 13 freshwater turtle species, and we work with 2 of our 6 marine turtle species. So in total, we work with, for Papua New Guinea, 18 turtle species in PNG, 6 are marine, and what? The rest are freshwater. More freshwater turtles than marine turtles. I'm just gonna put that there. Next slide, please. We also have some work with the dolphins. So these are our 2 dolphins, the Australian humpback, Australian snubfin. If you're like, some people are very concerned that they're Australian and they're in Papua New Guinea, you can just call them Pidu. So our work with the dolphins is part of our membership project called the Pidu Project. And it works with monitoring what's going on with the dolphins, keeping up with their red list assessment, a lot of work with the International Whaling Commission, with those 2 friends. It's also because of them that we have an important marine mammal area. Okay, next slide. This one is the one that's taken up most of my life now. This is our work with sharks and rays. So we have 47 species of sharks and rays over in the Gulf of Papua. 47 species of sharks and rays that we have recorded in the Kikori Delta. We have more than that. At one point, we had our communities down on the coast just monitoring for sharks and rays, and we recorded, confirmed, 47 species of sharks and rays, just from what they were catching on nets, what they were sighting in villages, what they were taking pictures of. With the 47, 30 are on IUCN red list. These are 30 ranging between vulnerable, near threatened, all the way up to critically endangered. I think we have about 6 to 8 critically endangered. That's all the 4 sawfish, 5 sawfish in the world, 4 are found in PNG. We work a lot with these animals. We do the science as well as the community work. So we are the research for sharks and rays out of the Gulf of Papua, and sharks and rays science, especially for sawfish. And we don't do that by ourselves. We've got a whole spectrum of partners who help out with that. And so we shall celebrate them also on Friday when we talk about the work we do. 47 species of sharks and rays confirmed, 30 on IUCN's red list, ranging from critically endangered sawfish, rhino rays, redfish, to near threatened, the river sharks, the rays, so many. Next slide, please. I'm sorry if I'm rushing with this. I just know that if I spend too long, I shall preach to tomorrow. So let's see. This is what we do. We're community-based. We do work a lot with the science aspect of things, and this is where our members are really important. So shout out to Carla Eisenberg, shout out to Michael Grant. We do the fun things, which is we do the work on ground, we monitor, we tag, we measure. They do the really, really, really interesting fun work of writing all these things down. And so we do a lot of the work that we do on site is us training the members of community, and then the monitoring, the data collection, most of it is done by people in community themselves. And so this is where our relationship with the 10 tribes is very important. Also, the privilege of us working within the knowledge system of all these 10 cultures. And so this is also why I consider us an extension of our Kikoi community. It's also an extension of their initiative. We've got the biggest threat to a lot of the species that are found on the coast and out the river is bycatch. So we're currently facing an IUU fishery. This is an illegal, unreported, unregulated fishery that's providing product to Southeast Asia. And that's driving a lot of our species numbers down. We've done a lot of scientific papers on this. We've done a lot of news articles, journal articles on this. We've done a lot of reports on this. Apart from the science things, we try to translate a lot of this knowledge back to community, give them back a lot of their knowledge in the form of books back to schools. We've got things like safe release guides that we're testing out with the community. So we had really bright ideas, they and us, about how we could prevent animals. Ideas are great. Communicating that to the animals are sometimes hard. And so we test a lot of this out in community to see if they work or not. We've got a community sawfish championship program that's there. This helps out with the monitoring. So if you catch a sawfish accidentally, we don't go actively catching sawfish, but they get caught a lot on fishing nets as bycatch. And so if you have one, if you safely release one, take a picture, take a video. If you are unfortunate, as in you came too late to check the net and they drowned, just also let us know. And so we have this monitoring program titled in a championship program where you just you record and help us keep track of what's going on with our bycatch, and especially for this our priority species. Okay, is there anything here? Oh, yes. We're doing a lot of work in Kikori and right now, which is with bioculture. And this comes to amplifying what we are, which is we're very connected to environment. and we're very connected to nature culturally. So conservation is not a new thing in Melanesia. Conservation is not a new thing in Melanesia. A lot of the work that Pico Biodiversity Network is able to do is possible through the already conservation ethics that is present in our cultural knowledge systems. And once we connect with that and have science and traditional ecological knowledge, which is a part of bioculture, it enables people to do what they were always meant to do, born to do, purpose. So example of bioculture, my maternal side, I am a turtle. My paternal side, I am a sawfish. And so our work and my work with sawfish and turtles is just basically me taking care of myself, because I am a turtle and a sawfish. So yes, that's our work with bioculture. Last slide. Thank you. This is my very short presentation on what we're doing to reverse the red over in Kikori of the Gulf province.
Thank you so much, Yolani. And we're really, really excited to host you at the Nature Park on Friday for our in-person event to learn some more. So much you do. Just that incredible connection to community and working within the knowledge systems is really something that we can all learn from. So thank you so much. Last but not least, and thank you all for sticking with us. We have more than 50 participants listening in today. And I know we've gone a little over time, but I'm sure you'll agree that these incredible messages are well worth sticking around for. So yeah, our final speaker is Miss Megan Joyce from the Reverse the Red initiative of the IUCN, or Reverse the Red office. And she's a huge fan of the work in the Pacific and works with us a lot in the CSS PNG, and we're incredibly grateful for the massive amount of support that we get from the Reverse the Red office in Megan. So I'm really pleased to introduce her to talk about the species pledges.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you all again for sticking with us. And I'm so excited to hear all of these different stories and the different ways that all of our presenters have been going about their conservation projects, because it really speaks to what Reverse the Red is all about. So I'll be quick, but with Reverse the Red, we really believe that saving species is possible. That depends on the actions that we take, and all of the actions that all of our presenters are taking and all of you are taking are really making that difference. So you saw the video at the very beginning. That was a very quick introduction to Reverse the Red, but the slightly longer version is that we are a global coalition and we want to ignite optimism and accelerate strategic recovery-focused actions like the ones that you see here. So our executive committee is made up of these organizations at the bottom. We are co-chaired by the IUCN Species Survival Commission and the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And so we really use this network, this broad network of these organizations, all of their members, all of their member institutions, and all of you who are partnering through your variety of other institutions and other organizations, community-based organizations and research facilities to really help us halt extinctions, reverse declines, and restore populations of threatened species. So we are having this webinar today and lots of the events happening this week because Reverse the Red Day happens every February 7th. And I just wanted to share this because February 7th is a day that everyone can get involved in Reverse the Red, and I really hope that you've been inspired by all of the stories that you've seen and heard today here, and think about sharing your story with us and with the wider Reverse the Red network on February 7th. I have a full toolkit of messaging and graphics, so it would be very quick to put something together if you haven't thought about it yet until now. And we're also more than happy to help you with that as well. Just tag Reverse the Red and I would be more than happy to share all of your stories. I will share the link to the toolkit and all of the resources in the chat as soon as I'm done with my slides. But lots of different events and different examples of stories happening across the world. You see some of that here on the screen. We are really geared towards achieving Target 4 of the Global Biodiversity Framework. So I won't read all of this text, but it is the language to ensure urgent management actions to halt human-induced extinctions. And so that is the ultimate goal of the Reverse the Red network. We also acknowledge that without all of the 23 targets for the Global Biodiversity Framework, we can't save species, and without Target 4, we can't achieve the other targets as well. But for the real niche of Reverse the Red, we're focused on Target 4. These are the species that need urgent management actions aside from all of the other actions. And so with that, I wanted to mention the Species Pledge and put in a quick plug for participating in this and another event that we have on the calendar for 2 weeks from now. But the Species Pledge has been around for about a year now. We launched it actually early 2024, almost 2 years now. We're gathering a database of who is doing what where for species conservation. This allows us to know what actions are happening for species. We can identify gaps where we need to mobilize, and it increases collaboration between governments and civil society. And so you heard Valerie talk a little bit about this collaboration and the gap analysis and all of that work in PNG. And so we're really excited to pair our Species Pledge data with all of the data of gap analyses like the one that Valerie and the Center for Species Survival are doing. So why make a Species Pledge? It is a way to show your contribution towards these global goals. Global Biodiversity Framework is huge and the targets are huge, and it's something that countries are reporting. But as I said at the beginning, every action really makes a difference. And so by inputting the work that you are already doing or making a new commitment, you can gain that international recognition as well. We are, again, happy to share those stories of successful strategic recovery-focused actions. We'll also see here that there is that national alignment, and there's also that increased collaboration between civil society and governments. Again, we do also have an accelerator award. Last year was the first year of this, and our next round for this funding will open on March 2nd of this year. By making a Species Pledge, you become eligible to apply for that accelerator award. And so we do encourage you to do that. Winning the accelerator award is $15,000 US for a specific project to accelerate the recovery of species. And so that's just another incentive to hopefully sweeten the pot, sweeten the deal to make a Species Pledge. We are also really excited to introduce this week our new Species Pledge web app. And so here, this is our first way to really publicize this data. And so you can search the pledge database by country, by action, by species. You can edit your organization's pledge, which we didn't really have the ability to do before. And you can also send a request to our team. So if you are also working on the northern leopard frog, I have amphibians pulled up here. If you're also working on the northern leopard frog and you submit your pledge and you see that there's another pledge and you aren't in contact with that organization yet, you can let us know and we can connect you and start to really gather together around different taxa, different regions, countries, and really help to accelerate that collaboration. So we would love to have everyone here make a pledge. We have a special tutorial session set up just for the Pacific Island region. That will be happening on the May 16th. It's happening on the 17th of February. And I will share the link to register for that in the chat as well. But in that tutorial session, we'll walk through the pledge in a little bit more detail, explain it fully, and also showcase the platform and just walk through how to actually make your pledge. But we really see that through all of these actions that everyone is doing, reversing the red is possible. We have examples like these tiles that Peppermint Narwhal has been making for us for the past few years that we update as new red list updates come out. And it's always really exciting to see the new species that have been downlisted, and to see that saving species is really possible. So I'm going to skip that one and just say that it is time for you to join us. Hopefully you take Reverse the Red Day 2026 as a sign, and submit a species pledge and share your story. And I just want to say again, thank you. And together we can reverse the red. And we're really excited to be working with you, John Paul, and the whole Center for Species Survival team, as well as Nunya and the Species Roundtable team as well, to support all of you and all of your work.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Megan. And yeah, thanks again for all your support. You probably noticed over the last few days, there's been quite a lot of pledges. The team here in PNG have been utilizing the web app, and it's a really great system. So thank you so much for putting that together. I think you can see the color change on the amount of pledges in PNG is happening pretty rapidly. So let's hope we can get everybody to put on which species that they're working with on species level conservation, and begin to map this this reversal of the red. So I think that brings us to the end of all of our speakers this morning. And so thank you all for your incredible inspiration, and to show exactly what you can do when some effort is put in, and especially with community involvement and just digging into what is already there in terms of traditional ecological knowledge on conservation as well. The really key messages that have come across today, that we really can make a difference, as Megan says, and reverse the red. Yeah. So we have some questions for the panel now, before we wrap it up, and I know that we are over time. So there are just a few questions, which is good. And I can see the panel have been answering a little bit, but we'll bring some to the forefront just so for the benefit of everybody listening as well. So Valerie, I guess first off for yours, Miss Bridget Pion asked about the gap analysis and which specific groups and regions in PNG should be treated as the highest immediate priority. Could you just explain your answer a little bit? And what we're doing to make sure we get the right priorities?
Okay. So all of the gap analysis was to need reassessment. So all the species of immediate and high priority for assessment and conservation actions. Some of the criteria that we used include the threat level, or human settlement in the, as well as that the highest endemism for amphibians was in the West Sepik province. However, we are still working on a distribution map to identify where these priority species are found throughout Papua New Guinea. However, all the species on the priority list that we came up with are of high priority for reassessment and conservation action. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. Okay, looking through it, seems like a lot of the questions are for you, so apologies up front. But maybe Dr. Lisa Debek has asked, can you explain the definition of mammals and small mammals, and is there an overlap? Right, so I think we list it as mammals. You can answer, Valerie, on this one, but I think what we list as mammals is actually mostly marsupials, right? And then small mammals is a category, but you can answer. Sorry, Valerie, I'm not sure if you heard that. But the classification definition of mammals that we give and small mammals in the gap analysis. I think maybe there's some connection trouble there, but yeah, I think Dr. Lisa, it should say marsupials and small mammals, because really we're dealing mostly with terrestrial at the moment, and we'll move into marine later as we gain capacity in the office. Yeah. But so what we're doing right now is mostly marsupial and small mammals. There are a couple of odd ones, mostly alien invasives like pigs and Java rossetia, but other than that, most things fit within those two groups. And bats, of course. Bats is a group that we've not even started to dip into yet. Then I think this is probably for the whole panel, but is it possible to collaborate with institutions that offer environmental centered courses to enable students to collect raw data in areas where they're studying in exchange for a certification or participation? If anyone from the panel has anything? Do you have anything in Ley, Modi, in the communities where there's some collection of raw data taking place?
Yes, and I think I mentioned in my presentation that you know, the conservation area also serves as a really good site for research. It's protected, you know, there's laws around how they use the environment, and so in fact, we just developed. we're going into an MOU now with University of Technology. So that site can be used better. You know, we think that there is really good opportunity for research in use. And like I said, this is a ridge to reef project. Your research can go from mountain tops right up there in the rainforest, right down to the coral, to the marine area. So it's a wide range. It covers different environments. You know, transactions of environments throughout the landscape. And, you know, there's even grassland areas, there's, you know, rainforest areas, and also we encourage, research in the area. It'll help us to understand the area, you know, and also help the researcher to gain knowledge that they wanted to gain. So yes, there is opportunity. If there's, you know, researchers out there that want to do research, I put our emails up there, Dr. Lisa Debek and myself, or they, you know, through the Port Moresby Nature Park, through yourself, you can connect them to us. We can connect with them for research work in the conservation area.
Awesome, thank you, Modi.
And I did say, you know, while we focused on the tree kangaroo, you know, there's another 30 animals that we monitor, you know, and that data we can share also.
For sure. Thank you, Modi. I think from our perspective in at the Port Moresby Nature Park, rather than the CSS, though both are pretty linked, we do have UPNG students who come to help us with identification of the ex situ collections, particularly plants, and to try and help us with that. And so those students do get certificated on it. Maybe, is there anything you do so far, Yolani, in the goals?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What did I do in the Gulf?
Sorry, or in Kikori, sorry. Do you have any para-ecology projects for students or any situation like that? Or do you see a possibility to collaborate with institutions for it?
We have some, like we're working with some, not in the way that we currently have. I mean, we have the example from Binatang and TKCP. The approach that PICU has started to take as of last year, so it's new, is the one that where we're trying to revitalize our bioculture. One of the things with working with the Gulf of Papua is our low standards of education. And so we've got an 80% adult illiteracy rate. So, and one of the lowest literacy rates documented in Papua New Guinea. And so just trying to get people engaged with something that they think will need them to have high literacy or at least some form of literacy, we found one of the things that disengages a lot of our young people a lot. It's they can't relate to it. And so by relating them back to their bioculture, which is what is your relationship to nature? And then starting from that starting point, we're getting a lot more interest. And then based off of that starting point, we're tailoring. So our monitoring and our data sheets, like the actual science is tailored to the understanding of community. They live in really high biodiversity area, and like there's 47 different species of sharks and rays. And sometimes the difference between one shark and another is 2 centimeters of like their eye. It's the most frustrating thing to me. But they're very good at identifying the four different species of swordfish. They can identify it off the top of their head. And so we're just like, which one did you see? And sometimes they'll record in their own language. So the language has their own way of categorizing. And so once we understand that, we just tailor it to how they're identifying, and then we marry the science to the knowledge that exists. And so led by them, we tailor accordingly, and then we tailor back so that we can do things like red list assessments and scientific papers. So thank you for that question.
No worries. But yeah, it was a question from an anonymous person, but if you would like to contact us separately, if that's an interest and you're from an institution, then it's something that we can help put together for sure for a certification for that. We work in trying to upskill people with para-ecology in different places in Milne Bay and across PNG, so that would be good. I think most of the other questions were for Valerie also, but she's done a great job of answering those in the chat. We just have one more question from John Lamaris for Valerie. So on your list of priority species, does cultural significance have an influence on the species you consider prioritized? Or is the list currently guided by IUCN values? Maybe a little lag there. Did you hear the question there, Valerie? Sorry. So I think there's some network issues. I know that cultural significance has played a part in some of the priorities as well. And one interesting conversation.
The data we found, the research already.
Sorry, I think Valerie's going in now. Yeah, one interesting one that we had was with pigs. So even though it's alien invasive species and it's causing some huge problems in PNG, or possibly it's causing some problems in PNG with species conservation or habitat conservation, it's actually a huge cultural value. So there are conversations we've had around that as well, though we wouldn't be at UCN red list assessing domestic pigs in forests. It's a consideration. It just highlights kind of what you said about cultural significance. So yes, it is a consideration, but right now at this stage in the prioritization process, it's mostly based upon other factors. That was one of the criteria that was scored against. We will in future lean more heavily into that. Thank you everyone who asked questions. I think there are some detailed answers to some of the other questions there, but we are way over time. So I just want to say my thank yous and just say thank you to the huge amount of people who turned up today to listen about Pacific Island conservation and some of the great good stories about the efforts, the big efforts that are being put in by some really inspirational people. From my part, you needed to do to get to this point today, to share stories from the Pacific. Apologies, I dropped out there. So I think I was just saying my thank yous, and so that I'm not sure what you heard so far, but to our sponsors as well. So the IUCN CSS office is sponsored by the Cologne Zoo, by Synchronicity Earth, by the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, and by the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo, and we're forever thankful to those people for your sponsorship. So thank you all for joining us for so long today. I know we've gone significantly over time. Thank you again to Megan, to all of our speakers, and I hope that you continue to listen into all of the Reverse the Red talks this week. There's a whole suite of talks that are being done online. And for anyone in PNG, you're super welcome to come along to the Nature Park on Friday for our in-person event, which should be really cool. And we have over 250 school kids coming on the day, and a lot of things to do with Reverse the Red on site too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John Paul.